And here we go. Huddle around as Climbing the Pocket Network presents Jayson and the boys talking everything Minnesota Vikings. Watch the countdown timer.
Away we go again. Lost like I'm lost on purpose. If found, please return to. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home, my vision blurry, I'm paying the cost. I'm not enough. In fact, it's even better when you're not involved. When I miss your call, I feel that I evolve. Cause at your mention, I am more dependent than a college student on their parents or an old person on their pension. Not to mention, when you hit me on WhatsApp without attention, and a bad booty bitch walks in, she looks tempting. Look, my Achilles heel is when I said what I feel, you said, baby, come home, and I don't think that I will, cause all this motherfucking stress is gonna get me killed. Woo. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home,
Huddle around as Climbing the Pocket Network presents Jayson and the boys talking everything Minnesota Vikings.
No, I can't play these games. No, you can't disrespect and call me names. Sending me signals like you about to switch lanes. Well, go on, do your thing. Go on, do your thing. I mix champagne and propane, get lit. I'm trying to forget all the things that you said, all the things that we did. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road? I've been here before. When I get home, watch the breakdown. And I get home when I get home. You just gonna act like we normal now. Good luck. Don't you try to call me with that bullshit, telling me you're sorry. You act too quick. That's somebody else's problem now. You're somebody else's problem now. Don't you try to call me with that bullshit, telling me you're sorry. You act too quick. That's somebody else's problem now. You're somebody else's problem now.
And of course it doesn't. Yay! Hey everybody, it's Dave here, and we're going to fix this. Ecamm dropped a new update today, and we were hoping that it worked. Obviously, it did not. Jayson, can I get a sound check? And absolutely nothing. Okay. Boom. Bye, Jayson. Let's add Jayson again. Boom. Boom. Jayson. Talk to me, Jayson. Can you hear? Can you talk to us?
I'm back. I'm here.
Yes, and we can hear you.
I am not on mute.
All right.
Does that mean we're going? Are we up?
That means you're up. Now we got to get everybody
we have
else
to do this
up.
for everyone.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, we are back. We're still working through these technical difficulties. I guess I'm just going to be here talking to Dave and filibustering while he gets everyone back in here. This is take 2, post-draft show. We're going to have some draft analysis, way early draft grades. This will now be like the third time we've tried to get Nick to share his draft grades. We'll now hope that like the system doesn't break again while we go through it. Yes, we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson. We're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. We're going to talk about Kellen Mond. We're going to talk about all the things that people want us to talk about. We're going to talk about how much Myles loves that the Vikings always draft running backs and linebackers in the mid rounds of every draft when all of his favorite wide receiver prospects are still available. We're going to talk about all these things. And we're almost there. We're almost ready to get started. David has got one more person to bring back in here, and then we're going to hop to it. That's Nick. That's not Myles.
Double the Nick.
There's Myles. And I think we can get started. We can get going. Myles, can you hear me?
Oh, what up? What up? What up?
Boom. We can hear Myles. Everyone is here. Can I get a sound check, Flip?
Damn, Dave's got me so zoomed in.
Let's do the thing.
We got a sound check. Last but not least, Nick, my man, how we doing?
I'm good, man. Let's
Boom.
get going.
Everyone is here. Our names are back where they belong. Dave fixing us in real time on the air.
Well, why do I feel so disproportionate compared to everybody else? I feel like I'm so much more zoomed in than everybody else.
Hey, but we can hear you.
Question.
Dave will work that out as we go.
Here we go.
We're good.
We're
good. I'll just
We're good. And
Just move back in your combat hoodie, Myles. Moving on back.
all right. Well, those are the intros. That's it. We're gonna jump right into the show because the streets have been clamoring for this one. People want to hear what y'all have to say about what the Vikings did in this draft, and we're just gonna jump right on into it. No, not again, Seth. We are back.
No, we're good, Seth. We're good
here.
now.
We're going to talk about it. We're here. We're good. Stick with us. What up, Jake? Jake is back. Jake is a fan again. He must not have any startup drafts today. So we're glad we got Jake in the house with us. Nick, talk to me, dog. How you feeling? You've had a bit of time. The hype of draft weekend has died down. Everyone has been able to get some sleep. Talk to me about the Vikings draft. How do you feel about it? Did they address all the things you wanted them to? And are you feeling good, better? What are the thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's May, so hope springs eternal. I'm impressed by all y'all showing up. It's like May after the draft, kind of dead season for the NFL, and yet everybody's still out here ravenous for more Vikings content. But yeah, I thought the draft was really great. They fixed the offensive line. Like, how long have we been clamoring for them to do that? I mean, probably shouldn't count chickens too early, but I mean, they added Darisaw, who's a day one starting left tackle, and they added Wyatt Davis in the third round. So, they were two glaring starters. They cut Riley Reef. We all thought, like, what the hell are they doing? They cut, our second best lineman last year. And I think they got somebody who can step in and really be a day one upgrade from Reef. And then I thought Wyatt Davis was a fantastic addition in the third round. He should immediately slot in. And they even have some depth now. I think Rashad Hill is a good backup swing tackle. I think Mason Cole has the ability to come in and play at a, maybe not a starting quality level, but like he's an upgrade over Dozier, I think, as a backup. So I really like the way they address the offensive line. That should mean big things for Dalvin Cook next year. It should mean big things for Kirk Cousins next year because he's not a mobile quarterback. So we know that he is more reliant on having a clean pocket than guys like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson or whoever. So I'm excited about that. I still have questions about who's going to start opposite Danielle Hunter. It's looking pretty barren right now. There's some reason. I know the team is high on who was the fourth rounder last year and blanking on his name right now.
Wanham.
Yeah, I know the team is high on Wanham, but he was not good as a rookie. So he'd have to take a pretty substantial leap. Like, look, Danielle Hunter, it took Hunter 3 years before he was a starter in the NFL. So I'm not super high on Wanham. I don't think Weatherly is a starting caliber guy. Patrick Jones, I think, is interesting and farther along than like Janarius Robinson, who's pretty raw, but like he's still a rookie. So, I mean, it's an interesting cast of characters, and we'll see. Maybe they'll just all rotate in. But that's really the only part of the roster I have questions on. I think every other spot of the roster I think is pretty set. I think the Vikings roster looks very complete on paper. I'm a little worried about their depth. What happens when guys get injured? As we saw last year, it's going to happen. So, if Adam Thielen goes down, I don't really want to rely on Olabisi Johnson. If Danielle Hunter goes down, we just went through all the misfits who would be slotting in there. So But you look at the health roster of healthy. I think they have above average starters pretty much everywhere except along the offensive line and that other defensive end spot and maybe the other safety spot opposite Harrison Smith. But everywhere else, you got Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Harrison Smith, Danielle Hunter. I mean, the list goes on. This is a good roster, so I'm feeling pretty good about our chances next year.
All right. Well, I'm glad you got to get all that positivity out of your system. I wanted you to start off on a good note because the Vikings started it in the draft. And then, our man, Justin Jefferson, he kind of continued with a narrative that got started where, Vikings Twitter is basically, we're moving on from Kirk Cousins. We tried to move up for Justin Fields, couldn't get him, brought in a quarterback who, as RG3 said, is all of the things Kirk Cousins is not. Then we got Justin Jefferson doing interviews, talking about Kirk not having any swag and the Vikings looking at life after Kirk and him being cool with it. Nick, do we have a QB controversy? And how are you recovering from this when Justin Jefferson, one of your favorite players, is out here dogging the man that you have been the personal defender for the last 2 years?
Yeah, my two dads are fighting. I don't know. It's
Kirk Cousins is not your dad, Nick. Come on, have some confidence.
Oh man, I saw that I saw Jefferson's interview and I thought yeah, he's just speaking truth. I like that he's not being filtered right now. I like that he's not saying anything that anyone disagrees with. Yeah, we all know Kirk Cousins isn't mobile. It's no different when I say it than it is when Jefferson says it, except, he's his wide, but he's played with Joe Burrow too. So, comparing the two, obviously Joe Burrow's a little more mobile, a little younger, a little more athletic. He said he praised them both for their accuracy. And he said Burrow is more willing to stand in there and take a shot or something, which is I don't know. I feel like Cousins has taken plenty of shots his time in Minnesota after circling through all the offensive lines. But, I didn't think, I didn't think there was anything there that was oh man, he hates Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow has more swag than Kirk Cousins. Well, duh. Kirk has the least cool. He's the least cool quarterback in the NFL. So none of that is false. I thought the most interesting part was him talking about trading up for Fields. Yeah, well, I have to think about a future after Cousins, which is okay. I mean, yeah, that's true, but he's not like Aaron Rodgers. He's not on the twilight of his career. He's 32, I think. So I don't know. That was an interesting comment. But it's true. You get a chance to trade up for Justin Fields. You get a chance to draft Kellen Mond, two kind of really athletic, high upside quarterbacks with a lot of arm talent and a lot of leg talent too. I feel you do have to start thinking about do we extend Kirk Cousins a third time? Are we gonna re-roll the dice with Cousins as $40 million a year or whatever, or are we gonna chart a new path? And I feel it'll be interesting to see what happens. Sounds like the Wilfs had their hands on the put their fingers on the scale a little bit there in the draft room. But it also sounds like they're not totally done with Kirk Cousins. It's not like they're through with him the same way that the Bears were with Mitch Trubisky this time a few months ago. It's they like Kirk Cousins. They were interested in Justin Fields, but they weren't willing to pay the farm to get up to get him. And there, Ben Gessling reported at the Star Tribune that there are folks that really like Kellen Mond too. So they wanted some quarterback options. There's a reason they didn't re-sign Sean Mannion all offseason. And Spielman said in his post-draft presser, there's no QB controversy. Kirk's our starter this year. We're interested in what Mond can do down the road, but for now, Cousins is our guy. And I feel like that's the right approach. Take it year by year. If Cousins, he's always been a bit of a streaky starter. If he can live up to the hype, he has his offensive line. He has elite weapons all around him: Jefferson, Thielen, Cook, everybody. You can question the depth, but Irv Smith too. That's a pretty good supporting cast right there, especially if these rookies step in and play as well as we hope they will. So, we're kind of out of excuses here. And if Kirk goes out and plays like a all-pro quarterback, great. That's a good problem to have to pay him. And if he doesn't, I'm glad we're all going to be looking back here being we're glad we decided to flip the formula and draft a quarterback this year. So I like it. I'm not upset with Justin Jefferson. I feel like he's just being honest. And I like it when athletes are uncharacteristically honest rather than giving the robotic answer. So I thought it was cool.
All right, Flip. A lot of stuff for you to comment on here. A lot of things for you to get into. I know you're not super big on like draft grades. You don't really care that much about the players that they take. But so talk to me about the process that you saw the Vikings employ when they went through the draft, how they maneuvered things in the draft, and it's kind of how you felt about it when it was all said and done, about kind of the positions they targeted and what that tells you about like the long-term future for the team, or what they're thinking about their future rather.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to gripe at when it comes to draft process for Rick Spielman. I mean, the conviction to wait on day 2 and not make a single second round pick, not waste any picks in order to trade up, and then still get, what seems like the 4 players that they coveted in the 3rd round was extremely good process. Day 3, you can gripe about the running back they took, or, the tight end or punter, nobody's sure, just a positionless player. It almost seems like you can gripe about it, but when you have picks near the top of day 3 and you're not in the 7th round, you might as well throw your darts hard, is what I like to call it. And then at the top of the draft, it's just supreme process for them to land Darisaw after the trade down. Look, the Vikings, and I've said this before, the Vikings started free agency knowing they had to fix offensive tackle. They didn't have Riley Reif. They didn't have Rashad Hill. They chased Joe Thuney. They chased the top tier tackle free agents, and they failed. And at that point, every single Vikings fan would have told you the Vikings are having a terrible offseason so far. You get to the draft. They chased Rashawn Slater. People want to focus on the trade up for Justin Fields. We have those rumors, but there were also rumors that they wanted to trade up for an offensive tackle. So they knew they had gone months knowing that they had to address offensive tackle. They were at 14. Christian Darisaw was there. So just the balls that it takes to bet basically your entire offseason on a trade down, not only get the tackle that you had to have this year, but also those 2 third-round picks that turn in to Kellen Mond. And I can't remember exactly who the other 3rd-round pick was taken on, but and Wyatt Davis. I mean, oh my goodness, just the balls to pull that off. It is literally perfect process.
So Myles, from your perspective, Wyatt Davis, it's a name that's been thrown around a lot by a lot of people as being a big part of the reason the Vikings did as well in the draft as they did. And so I'm curious a little bit about that one. Are we as excited about Wyatt Davis if he wasn't a player who, for whatever reason in preseason, was mocked in the 1st round to the Vikings in like every mock draft? Is that maybe skewing our perception of what Wyatt Davis is as a player? Because the entire league passed on him a couple of times before we got him. And, PFF has done some work on this thing that like the wisdom of the crowd, and that if a player is falling, it's probably not as big of a steal as you think it is, because like the entire league has made a decision multiple times. So I'm just curious, like a lot of us now have kind of gone through, like they addressed the offensive line. Like no one can say they haven't. They've been addressing the offensive line, but is it maybe a bit premature for us to say like the offensive line is set? Like we're good to go. They got a couple rookies plugging in. They got some other young players there, and like the offensive line is going to be just good to go as we look forward. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know before the draft you had said that it was really not fair maybe to put those expectations on a rookie coming in to play at the level that like Riley Reif even played last season. So I guess, what are your thoughts on the Vikings offensive line with them making some more moves and us being excited about the players? Like, are they good now, or are you maybe still a little bit shaky about things?
I mean, I'll always be shaky until I see it, just because this Vikings offensive line hasn't been good for years. I do think the process this time around, at least in the draft, I won't say in free agency and those things, but in the draft was better. I think Mike Zimmer coming out and saying we want to get bigger on the offensive line rather than focusing on the smaller, lighter, quicker guys. I think that says a lot to where their approach has been. And for me, it gives me a little bit more confidence that a guy like Wyatt Davis could come in and be a day one contributor, because he's not you're not worried about that functional strength the same way you would be like a Garrett Bradbury, for example, or some of the other smaller interior offensive linemen they've targeted. So that's one thing with Wyatt Davis that, and he comes from a zone scheme at Ohio State. It's a little bit more inside zone than outside, but still he does some pulling and some movement. So he can do it. And Dave even pointed out he was really good in 2019. Battled some injuries in 2020 and didn't play as well last year. So that could have, and I think he had off-season knee surgery. I think it was like in January or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but so there's a few reasons he slipped, but at one point he was definitely projected, round one player, and that doesn't, in October and things, that doesn't say a lot, but at least it tells you that the people that are doing some scouting and things, they had some, they really liked what his 2019 tape was, and they really liked what his future looked like at the time. So for me, I think it's hard to call things a steal, but I think, for the type of player he is, where the program he came from, and where you were able to get him, I'm very much on board. I don't think there was a better interior offensive lineman at that spot that they could have gone after. So I think, he plugs a hole and he gives you a little bit of that stability. He should be able to come in day one as a right guard. And then back to Christian Darrisaw, I'm still going to temper expectations on any rookie playing at a premium position like left tackle. Like I said before, I think it'd be hard to put Riley Reiff expectations on him as a rookie, but there might be a little bit more of that consistency in pass pro. You might not see some of the same movement or ability in the run game as a rookie, but maybe there's a little bit more stability in pass pro, because that's one thing Darrisaw was really good at in college was in pass pro, and that's something the Vikings should have been coveting anyway. So hopefully, at least you can give up a little bit in the run game, in my opinion, to make up for it in pass pro, and I think maybe Darrisaw might even have an edge over Reiff in that case. So I'm excited. Yes, Ted. Wyatt Davis. Yeah. Wyatt Davis is really good. I'm not trying to say Wyatt Davis
we got
good.
The Buckeye.
I'm actually excited. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm hoping they just pencil him in at right. I'm hoping they pencil him in at right guard. And I know Rick Spielman talked about, Rick Dennison thinks they can play, either side and all that. There's a difference. And so just like shuffling these guys just to shuffle them doesn't make sense. It would probably make more sense for Ezra Cleveland to go back to the left side. It's probably where he's more comfortable anyways. Wyatt Davis has always played right guard, so why not just keep him at right guard? That'd be probably what they should do.
I'm just really nervous about the shuffle. I think one thing Wyatt Davis in the third round instead of the first round does is it puts the guy on a different timeline. And this is really post-draft. We have to talk about just the coaching aspect of this and not just, look at these prospects like finished deals. Like exactly. The coaches have to step in. And one of the weirdest things with another third round Ohio State offensive lineman that Ted Glover does not want to talk about, Pat Elflein, is like, honestly, the coach who drafted it, Tony Sperano, rest in peace. They never knew what to do with Pat Elflein from a coaching perspective in 2019 or 2020. And so I just think you got to look at Rick Dennison and say, you have to know how to properly develop Ezra Cleveland, whether that means move him or keep him where he is at guard. You have to look at Wyatt Davis and decide, if he doesn't look ready week one, then fine. He's a third round pick. Do whatever is best to coach that guy into a capable starter for the Minnesota Vikings. And the same is honestly true about Christian Darrisaw because they have Rashad Hill there. So we have to see the coaches do a better job of developing these offensive linemen as well.
Right. We got a lot of positivity here. A lot of positivity. But hold on. I just wanted, before we continue with the love fest, there was just one thing that Myles had brought up. Just one thing, his one gripe with this whole thing, and you both kind of glossed over it. Flip kind of mentioned it a little bit. But Myles, during the draft, after the draft, actually before the draft too, you did like to talk about like the Vikings always going out, drafting linebackers we probably never heard of, running backs we probably never heard of, probably earlier than we should have. I guess take me back to that part of the draft. Talk to me about how you feel about, those picks. Really fast running back, and a dude named Chaz. And why we picked them where we picked them, and how you feel about. I know overall we're good, but like with the process that brought us those players.
So here's my thing. People will defend anything the Vikings do to their dying breath. It's what'll happen, and that's fine. But the linebacker running back scenario is always been something that troubled me, because the Vikings love to treat those positions and make sure the depth is shored up there more than any other position on the team. And those are probably two of, especially running back, some of the easier positions to find players, at least depth or quality depth players. I'm not saying Chaz Surratt can't turn into something down the road, but the Vikings very much love to prioritize those two positions. And I understand that running backs and linebackers also play special teams, and so I understand how valuable special teams is, and this team very much wanted to improve in special teams. But again, folks will be like, "Oh, they're just depth guys. They're guys that'll provide really good depth for this team." Well, when do you see Kenny Nwangu playing on offense? They don't barely play Alexander Madison on offense. So now they're going to all of a sudden play this 4th round rookie that they drafted to play on offense over him. Like, if there's a plan for Kenny Nwangu based off of his traits, I could get on board. If the idea is just to make him your Cordell Patterson kick returner and only special teams player, you didn't have to take him in the 4th round to do that. Like, if your only plan for a guy like that is to be a special teams contributor, then what are you doing? That's where my gripes are with, like, not taking a wide receiver. At least a wide receiver, you can find a way to put them on the field. There's multiple. They could be a special teams contributor too, and then you also help try to fortify your depth. And that Amir Smith-Marset was probably a lucky pick for the Vikings, because I think where they were able to get him was probably lucky. I think he's a good player. I think there's a chance for him to be a contributor for this offense because of where their depth is at and what he was able to do at Iowa. I'm a fan of his. I think for where they're able to get him, I'm impressed. But it's still the process that bothers me the most. It's like linebacker and running back. We have to go 5-6 deep at those positions, even though they'll never see the field. But we need to make sure that we're fortified there. And it's just something that I've just never understood, when there's positions that you could go find cheap, either veterans or undrafted free agents or what have you. You can find those things. But like a premium position like a wide receiver, or even you could double down and grab a corner, find other valuable positions that you could find that'll help improve depth. I just really think they don't do enough focus on in the draft. They're just willing to wait at other positions. But if I think it was mentioned, if Adam Thielen got hurt, let's say for 6+ weeks, what are you going to do there? And I don't think you're going to have the same kind of success you had in 2019 when Stephon Diggs was the only primary receiver and when Adam Thielen was hurt, because you're going to play better teams. They're going to be more focused on your weapons. You don't have a Kyle Rudolph, and I'm not trying to like prop Kyle Rudolph up, but the Vikings literally have gone into the offseason and they have less weapons than they had last year. And I'm not saying that Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin can't improve over what Kyle Rudolph was, but they still have one less weapon that they had before, and they've done nothing to improve in that area at all. So for me, I just have a hard time letting positions like wide receiver, defensive back, those things go for off-ball linebackers and running backs that you're probably aren't going to see the field for a while.
All right, Nick, Flip, anyone want to defend those selections?
I won't defend them. And, I think going into the draft, running back was probably the one position you circled and said, this is the last thing they need to address, because one,
but you knew they were going to do it.
But you knew they'd do it anyway. I mean, they found guys. I mean, Mike Boone was an undrafted free agent, and they found other guys. Blanking on their names right now, but they find talented backs in free agency. So they really didn't need to go out and find. You didn't circle the roster and be like, oh no, man, we really need an Eric Wilson replacement and a Mike Boone replacement. Like, come on, that's not where the needs of the roster are at right now. I mean, it's not worth getting too worked up about because these are third round, fourth round picks, but. And I think they clearly have a vision for Kene Nwangu just based on I don't know. They drafted him much higher than his stock, and I think they might see him as like a return weapon / offensive weapon, and not just like a backup running back. But we'll see. I mean, he's an interesting character. Guys with his, he ran a 4.29 40 at Iowa State and has like off the charts athleticism on his explosiveness, on his agility. And he's like, he did it at like 210 pounds or something, which is nuts. And he also was like a 4.0 student, like graduated with a degree in like mechanical engineering. So, I mean, I get why you fall in love with a prospect like that, because man, it's like, if a guy with that kind of character, that kind of background, and that kind of want to be a good player, and also that kind of athleticism, it's easy to buy into that.
Yeah,
Joseph is correct. Our best draft choice is if Aaron Rodgers leaves the NFC North. That is correct.
All these comments are hitting it spot on, and I am turned up about this because, especially the Surratt pick, like everybody's saying, oh, they need an Eric Wilson replacement with a bunk ass reason, but they signed Nick Vigil in free agency. So they already had Nick Vigil. They already drafted Dye last year. Here's the list of receivers that were on the board when the Surratt pick happened. You had Diami Brown available. You had Amari Rodgers available. You had Nico Collins, Anthony Schwartz. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown. You had you had Jalen Darden, you had Tylan Wallace, all on the board. And the Vikings made multiple picks. Get Smith-Marset anyways in the 5th round. Get 2 of those guys. It's something I've been saying. And they were there. They were in the position. They waited until the 3rd round. They had the picks to do it. They still didn't do it. They still didn't do it. So it's at the point where they don't care. They basically go to all their position coaches and they say, look, you get 1 draft pick this draft, and Mike Zimmer gets 4 of them. And so Keenan McCardle waited his turn. He took Smith-Marset, and all the defensive guys are going to all fight for linebacker 5, I guess, on the roster.
So D.D. Westbrook now, Flip? Or are you in the camp of bringing in some veteran depth, some names that we've heard of, some people that have maybe done some things in the league to try to at least add some more competition to this wide receiver depth chart? Because, I mean, it's looking kind of bleak after the 2 starters at that position. And I know before the draft, you wanted them to go heavy in the draft, but now that we're on the other side of the draft and that didn't happen, are you looking for them to bring in some veterans on the low and just try to increase the competition in the wide receiver room, if nothing else?
It's not going to move the needle for me. No, look, it's the exact same position as we were last year, where they added Tajay Sharp late, they added Yannick Ngakoue late, and we're back here. We're back here.
It's not the same. It was probably worse last year because you didn't know what you had in Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
Going into the draft, but at least you have the established. But what you have in the depth situation with BB and BC. Yeah, and they're not good enough. It's not that those guys can't help you, like as 5 and 6 receivers on your team, but the gap between 1 and 2 and Jefferson and Thielen to wide receiver 3 is it's ginormous. It's too big of a gap.
I agree, but a vet FA is not going to automatically be better, because what we see here with a vet free agent at least gives you a baseline of something that you might be able to get, that you can it's a baseline. It's also competition. It's just more competition for the guys that they have. That's how I look at it too. Okay, so spend $2 million to push BC Johnson and Chad Beebe to compete more. I'm not for that. Look, they can bring in a vet, and they can pay for that, and they can not coach them the way that Yannick Ngakoue and Tajay Sharp Just the coaches were not invested to drive any type of actual production from those free agents. So sure, go out and get them, but just I don't expect anything from them on Sundays. I don't want Keenan McCardell to go out and sign and pay for a guy that he already developed. I want him to develop the next D.D. Westbrook. I want him to develop the next DJ Chark, because that's what a good wide receivers coach should do.
But what's stopping him from doing that if they still were to sign a vet free agent? That's what I mean.
Well, if he's going to do that, then there's no reason to spend the money.
What do you mean? They don't have to play to develop.
Like year one, tall task, no? To expect
your
mid to late round wide receiver to come in and be productive. It's not year one for
Chad Beebe or
no, those guys aren't good enough.
I feel like we've
established BB and BC don't really have. They're not athletic dudes. Like BB is like a twig. He's a slot only, and he's what 5'9" or something. And we haven't seen this in the NFL yet.
I'm not saying that they're good players. I'm saying it's up to the coaches to try to turn them and put them on the field in positions that they can help the team win. And if your only strategy as a team is to find names and pay for every spot, pay premiums for every spot, then you don't have a coaching staff that can actually do anything. It's not just about roster on paper. You've got to coach these guys. You've got to put them in schemes where Chad Beebe can help you. You've got to.
Maybe Beebe's just not good enough. Maybe he's just not good enough.
I don't think he is good enough. But by not drafting in the 5th round, the coaches are saying he is good enough and he can contribute.
It's both, though. You got to give the coaches talent to work with. You can't just give them
a little bit.
The coaches have told us that they have the talent they need.
But they don't.
You just that's why they're looking at. That's
why they're calling up. That's why they're calling up Keenan Cole right now, because they don't have the talent. You know, they waited to draft Smith-Marsette, and he's as a rookie, he's probably going to be their wide receiver 5 or something. He's a special teamer right now, and Chad Beebe's like, okay, fine, he can get open underneath, but he's never going to be, a bona fide play 500 snaps a year. He's like a specialized third down when you're getting man coverage, he can get open, and that's good and that's valuable. He's not just a guy, but it's a limited skill set. And BC Johnson is kind of just a guy. He's never. I don't think he has the toolkit to be anything more than just like a spot rotational guy. So I feel like they can get better, and if they can, and especially right now when it's going to be really cheap, they should. If they can go out and sign a Golden Tate or whoever, or an Alshon Jeffrey or whoever else
that guy doesn't work out.
If they bring in a vet free agent, that vet free agent's not going to be a 500-yard third receiver here either. He's going to be like a 20-catch, 250-yard guy, which is exactly what Chad Beebe and BC Johnson is. So like this desire to,
but you're only looking at from
higher production just because it's a name, just because they produce in the past. That's not what happens in these expired free agents who are still on the market. That's why they're still on the market.
Flip, you're only looking at it from like what that stats number looks like, but sometimes those stats can also have drive more impact. So when Chad Beebe's on the field as your third wide receiver, are you afraid of Chad Beebe doing anything to you beyond 5 yards? No. If you were to at least sign somebody that can win downfield a little bit, there's at least more of an opportunity to threaten the defense down the field that Chad Beebe or BC Johnson doesn't do. And they might not always catch the ball, but they can help open things up a little bit more for an Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson, because you have to account more for a guy that could win down the field a little bit better, then you have to account for that in your defense. When Chad Beebe's on the field, that's one thing you don't have to account for.
Miles, by week 2, the vet FA, just like Tajay Sharp, by week 2, defenses are going to see this guy on tape and be like, wow, that guy can't win downfield anymore. And they're not going to be afraid of him. That's what I'm trying to say, is the projection, your attachment to the name is not what you're actually getting when you sign these guys post-draft.
So every
but
Vikings
we know what we're getting with Chad Beebe and
from
BC
here
Johnson
until Kingdom Come will now be Tajay Sharp.
Pretty much. Yes. Aldrick Robinson.
Aldrick Robinson had a role.
He was good.
Aldrick Robinson had like 15 catches and 170 yards.
7 touchdowns.
And like 5 touchdowns.
Okay. 5 touchdowns. Fine. Bring. If Chad Beebe scores 5 touchdowns this year, then we're happy. That's what we're saying. Come on, guys.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
If Chad
Didn't he have 4 last year?
if Chad Beebe could have that kind of impact for this offense, sure, we could have that conversation. I think Chad Beebe could have that?
Chad Beebe's 2020 was more productive than Aldrick Robinson's 2018. You guys realize that?
Put the stats up, Flip. Put them up.
I don't. I'd have to go look at them.
30, 200
I mean,
yards
both teams sucked, I guess. So,
what are the stats, Flip? Drop the mic with the stats, Flip.
Chad Beebe 2020.
Robinson had more yards and more
go ahead.
touchdowns, but it's close.
of course, he had more
Let the
yards.
record show.
It's
Let the
closer than
record
you wanted
show.
it to be. They were pretty much the
What's
exact
his yards
same
per
player.
reception?
You have a point.
Yards per
Chad
reception.
Beebe last year targeted 30 times, 20 catches for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Aldrick Robinson 2018 was 5 touchdowns on 35 targets, but only 17 catches. So 3 fewer catches, but more yards, 231 yards. So yardage was close.
He also came in mid-season.
And he had a downfield element that kind of changed how you play him. Chad Beebe, you always knew, was just like a one-on-one. You know, like a discount Cole Beasley.
And Chad Beebe was part of a better offense.
But both teams sucked.
Yeah.
It's like you can pay a Chad Beebe, or you can develop the Chad Beebe you already have. That's all I'm saying.
I don't actually hate Chad Beebe, wide receiver 3, Olabisi Johnson, spot rotational guy. My problem is, what if Justin Jefferson gets hurt and misses 6 games? Then Chad Beebe isn't wide receiver 3. Then Chad Beebe is, I'm going to start this game. I don't think he can do that. So I'm fine with going out and, like Myles says, bringing in a guy who gives you a floor. And, you know, if it's Dede Westbrook or whoever, I have a lot more confidence in Dede Westbrook running a full route tree than expecting Olabisi Johnson to step in and do it at a level that would, you know, in some way replicate what Justin Jefferson was giving you before he theoretically got hurt. That's what I'm concerned about. It's like, what happens if some guy gets hurt? Because right now, throughout the whole Vikings roster, really, starters look great, but if the depth has to come in,
and Justin Jefferson gets hurt, we're still screwed. We're screwed if that happens. They put themselves in the situation. A free agent wide receiver does not get them out of this bad situation that they're already in, and you're $2 million worse off down the line. Same thing with Yannick Ngakoue last year. They're like, crap, we need a defensive end. Let's go get one. They thought it would fix things. It didn't fix shit, and they lost a 2nd round pick. So don't make these investments unless you have a plan for them, and unless you actually think this guy's going to contribute in a way that these late free agents just don't.
I mean, but Westbrook is good. I feel like you're just like, oh man, you guys are just attached to this. Like, he's not like, okay, like Golden Tate, fine. He probably, I mean, I thought he was okay with the Giants last year, but fine. There's probably more name value there. But like, Dede Westbrook's a solid player, and I feel like he would be a substantial upgrade over like Olabisi Johnson coming in. The only reason he's still on the market is because he tore his ACL. So like, but he should become, if he's healthy and the medicals check out, perfect, bring him in. I definitely think he'd be an upgrade over BC Johnson. He's still young too. So I don't.
And Chad Beebe.
If he sucks and he doesn't make the roster, fine.
I'll take the cap rollover for next year.
Okay.
I do agree where you guys are coming from. I just don't think we're going to see anything worthwhile from it. We're going to get a warm, fuzzy feeling in May, and then come September, it's going to be
You are so burned over Tajay Sharp.
Tajay Sharp.
I'm also not
Aldrick Robinson.
Jake also mentioned, like, I'm not asking like this depth receiver to be a savior. I'm just asking this depth receiver to not be like terrible.
BC Johnson.
Yeah, just like we're not asking Chad Beebe to be terrible.
But I'm asking for better than Chad Beebe. That's all. Or someone that could step into a wide receiver 2 role. That's all.
I've had
saying.
enough. Flip.
There's no way to get
you're fired up, so I want to keep you fired up here. Nick mentioned it earlier. We look decent on paper everywhere, but defensive end in terms of who's going to be starting the games for us here. And I know every time we say this, given that we have a defensive guru for our head coach, it gets you going just a little bit. What are your thoughts on the defensive end position? Do you feel like we have enough to just rotate and be good? Or do we need to go out and get some more guys for Mike Zimmer? Do we need to get a Ryan Kerrigan? Are there any vets that are out there right now that you think could be useful players for the Vikings?
I mean, Mike Zimmer has made his hay on apparently being able to, redevelop veteran cornerbacks. We already gave him one of those. He being able to coach up defensive linemen, no matter what round they got drafted in, no matter where they came from, how much they're getting paid. He's got a top end defensive line, and it's not made up of top end players. He's gotten credit for, taking average safety play and putting all those parts together into a top 10 defense. If you look at the Vikings defense right now, they've addressed every position on the defensive side of the ball except for the defensive end across from Danielle Hunter. Mike Zimmer needs a perfect defense in order to put good defense on the field. Is that what I'm hearing now? Because that's definitely different than what he was given before. That's definitely different than what I expect from a defensive guru. And that's definitely different from the top defenses in the league right now. Defenses like the Rams, where the Rams defense is basically Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and a bunch of guys you can barely name. Coached up, retreads, go onto the field. They go next to Aaron Donald. They go next to Jalen Ramsey, and they make the scheme work. The Vikings defense right now, if they can't produce a top 15 defense with Anthony Barr back, Eric Kendricks back, Danielle Hunter back, Michael Pierce back, Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Smith, Xavier Woods, Cameron Dantzler in year 2, Jeff Gladney in year 2, and Patrick Peterson, then Mike Zimmer can get out of town. I don't have time for this. We need another defensive end. You got your draft pick, DJ Wanham. You got 2 more defensive ends in this draft. You got your boy Stephen Weatherly back from the Panthers. Coach him up, Mike Zimmer.
Woo! Woo!
My goodness, Flip. Bringing the heat.
Nick?
I agree, though. Like, the roster is talented. But here's the thing. Like, last year, the Vikings had an above-average third-down defense, despite the fact that guys I couldn't tell you were starting at linebacker. Cordea Tankersley, guys they signed off the street. Like, I'm not even talking about like the Chris Boyds of the world, like Todd Johnson. Their 10th linebacker starting at week 16. Guys, Dylan Mabin, who the hell is he? Like, people I'm having to Google being like, who the hell is number 43 and why is he covering Devontae Adams right now? Like, good defensive coaches should be able to coach guys up. But if you're signing street free agents, like, talent matters more than coaching. So, like, I'm willing to give Zimmer a one mulligan, just one time last year, because he was starting like replacement level dudes, below replacement level dudes all over the roster. And like, nobody would ever say Saban is a bad coach just because he relies on Bama defensive talent, like the best recruiting guys in the NFL, in college football. So like the same way, like you just need guys who can play if you're going to be able to have a good defense. Like, that's just how football works. Like, talent matters more than scheme. If you have the right guys, scheme kind of doesn't matter as much. But this year, I agree. Like, everything on paper looks pretty good. Danielle Hunter's back. They've got Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson, which is like worlds better than Shamar Stephen and Jaleel Johnson last year. Like, they got Barr coming back. They got Kendricks coming back. Barr only played 1 game, and Kendricks, I think, missed a few at the end. They signed Patrick Peterson. Cameron Dantzler is no longer 150 pounds wet. Like, they signed Mackenzie Alexander. They signed Mackenzie Alexander, who's like a good starting nickelback. There's like a lot of talent on this defense, and I feel like, people are saying, oh, well, like I'd temper expectations. I think like this defense should be good. Like, on paper, I look at this defense and think, like, especially if defense is a weak link system, like it's a matter of like, who's the weak spot on this roster, because we can go after them as an offense. Like, there isn't really a weak point on this roster. Like, unless Danielle Hunter gets hurt, like, I feel like this should be a top 10 defense, because like who's going to be the weak chain on this defense? Like the Xavier Woods, like, okay, fine. You have like one average safety, but like, when has that ever stopped Zimmer from all the other bad safeties he's played with? So between Sendejo, between
Are we feeling good about corner now, Nick?
I am. I feel like Patrick Peterson, the Cardinals asked him to do so much last year, and he was not good following guys into the slot. He's not going to be a guy who can chase down guys, but if you give him the sideline, let him use his physicality. He was the 5th least targeted cornerback in the NFL last year. And that's like playing cover one, shadowing DK Metcalf twice, shadowing Stephon Diggs. Like, he's still a good player. He was just put in situations where, like, he was in a lot of trouble. Like, he had to shadow Terry McLaurin in the slot. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Cardinals? Making him shadow Stephon Diggs in the slot. Like, this isn't Peters. That's not his game anymore. So, like, Zimmer is not dumb. He's going to put Peterson in situations where he'll be good. Dantzler, maybe he get banged up. I don't think he's a perfect prospect. I don't think he's going to be like an all-pro shutdown corner. But he's like good. He went toe-to-toe with some good receivers last year. Put on some good tape. Mackenzie Alexander, I think, gives you a baseline starting caliber nickel cornerback. So I feel good about the secondary, especially when you add in Harrison Smith, who, maybe his age drops off. Maybe this is the year he's no longer like a Pro Bowl caliber safety. But like, this is a good secondary. And when secondary is all about not having a weak link, I don't see a weak link in the secondary.
Eric Eager is getting killed in the comments. Seth is out.
We need Eric to jump in.
We'll get Eric back on. So
we're being too optimistic here.
So he and Nick can chop it up. What's the over/under on the Vikings?
I still need to hash out whether Andre Patterson's a fraud or not. We still need to hash that one out live.
We rang the bell.
That's going to happen this offseason. What is the over/under on the Vikings?
9.5. Did I see 8.5? 9.
I think it's 8.5.
That sounds.
Which feels low.
Does it?
I take the over. Yeah, I'd take the over.
How? But so here's my thing. I would take the over too. But how can we ever get upset? The Vikings have been. I'm going to keep it within the Kirk Cousins parameter of the Vikings because that's what it's been the last 3 years. They've had one season where they've been above their over/under mark, right? And it wasn't by much. They won 10 games back in 2019. Probably could have won 11 if they played the starters, but either way, 10 wins. They haven't been close to winning more than that. How do we expect? Like, I guess 8.5, sure. Like the over 9 is over 8.5, but like, how much more over would you put it at? Is my question.
8.7.
I feel like they're a good team.
I think they're a
I'm
good
not
team.
disagreeing with you, Nick. I'm just asking.
I'm with
the
Seth.
question.
I think 10. I feel like this is a 10-win team. I don't know. I look at this roster.
Is that good enough? Is that good enough?
Well, I don't want to say like 13 because like you need a lot of lucky breaks to get that far. But
13's ridiculous in itself. That's hard to do. But like in general, like 10 wins is like a barely making the playoffs type of team. Is that good enough? I guess that's what I'm just like sick of being like just good enough to get into the playoffs when we should be a team that's when you have an established coach, an established quarterback, you have, a good defense, you have a good run game, all the things, elite receivers, like all these things coming together, like fringe playoff teams should never be like it should be good enough for expectations, in my opinion.
The quarterback is Kirk Cousins, so you can just take a hand grenade and throw it at 3 of those games, and they're gone. And then you're going 10-4, and you're over.
I need that soundbite somewhere because
throw a hand grenade. Get the clip.
You got like a game like Atlanta. You're like, okay, we can be Atlanta. Kirk Cousins throws a pick on the first play of the damn game. You got a game against Chicago. They've got to play Caleb Haney or whoever, Chase Daniel, whoever the guy is. Kirk can't outduel Chase Daniel. So I think 10-4 is pretty good, y'all.
I don't know. We got the vein bulging out of Flip's neck today. Flip is fired up. I love it. Did we have anything else we wanted to cover before we get out of here today? Have we covered all the things? There's been Kirk slander. There's been Justin Jefferson.
Give me a number. What % chance do you think Aaron Rodgers is the starting quarterback for the Packers week 1?
Isn't? You said isn't? This
Is. What are the chances he's back starting week 1?
Like 10%?
Woo. You're more optimistic than I am.
Yeah, I'm going to say 80% he's starting. He's not going anywhere.
I think Aaron Rodgers is the type of dude where he's like, I'm good. I really do. I really think he would.
Is that hope though, Myles? Is that hope as a Vikings fan, or do you really think he's going to leave that money on the table and walk away and go host Jeopardy for the rest of his life?
For 1 year, I could see Aaron Rodgers literally telling the Packers, "Good luck without me." Have we not seen the type of person Aaron Rodgers? Like, I'm not even saying this in a negative way. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most petty athletes we've seen. I love the pettiness. It would not surprise me at all if he was like, y'all, good luck. Catch me next year.
It would surprise me just because, like, I don't know. I feel like they've got unfinished business. He's close with all his dudes there, and, like, he's getting paid good money. It's like he's got a good scheme. He's got a good wide receiver 1. He's got a great pass protector.
He's getting paid good money.
Line.
And then they can move on after this year. I mean, Rodgers isn't coming back for that. He's not coming back without either a high-ass new deal that will keep him in Green Bay for the rest of his time, or he's getting traded. That's my opinion. I don't think he would come back for, like, a not new contract, right?
Well, let me put it this way. There is a 0% chance that he gets traded, in my opinion.
You can say 0?
I can say 0. If the Green Bay Packers are not going to trade Aaron Rodgers, they have the deal in front of him. So this is about Rodgers petty. Does he sit out a year or does he play for Green Bay? And how petty does he want to get?
How great would that be?
So is, like, Kirk going to leave and then Rodgers coming to Minneapolis? Is that how that's going to go? Are we just going to, like, Kirk goes and then Rodgers comes in and kind of has one good season for us and then leaves to go somewhere else and steal money?
That might be enough for me to actually go to a game in that trash-ass Lambeau field to watch Aaron Rodgers in purple. Because I'm not going to that crappy-ass Wisconsin town unless Aaron Rodgers is there to enact some vengeance.
But the bleachers are heated, Flip. You can shovel your own seat.
All right. Well, that is it. We are a few minutes over time, and we've covered all the things, and we are like 3 more minutes away from going completely off the rails. So that's it. That's all, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on tonight. Listeners, viewers, thanks for chopping it up with us. Thanks for all the wonderful comments. Viewers, we will get Eric here at some point, so you can take out your vengeance on him live while he and Nick chop it up, yelling at one another, respectfully, of course, about Andre Patterson and all other things to do with the Vikings. And Eric they ruined his birthday, y'all. You got to understand. Like, they ruined his birthday as a child. He's never letting it go. But that's it. That's the show. David, play the music.
Cool.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.